Hello and welcome. Today we are diving into something really fascinating, and let's be real, a paradox a lot of us have probably noticed. Why is it that some of the most brilliant, most ambitious people we know seem to have the hardest time finding and keeping love? It's a great question, so let's get right into it.
You've seen it, right? You see them just crushing it in every other part of their life, their career, their personal projects, you name it. But when it comes to their love life, it's like a puzzle they just can't quite crack. So is it just a string of bad luck? Or is there something much, much deeper going on with how they actually approach relationships?
So what is really at the heart of this whole thing? Well, the first major piece of the puzzle is this internal battle, this conflict that happens when a super analytical mind has to deal with the messy, often totally illogical world of human emotion.
And it really comes down to two completely different ways of looking at romance. You see, most of us, we operate from the emotional heart. We feel a spark, we follow that gut feeling, and we just look for a connection. But for a lot of highly intelligent people, it's the calculating mind that's really in the driver's seat. They're analyzing outcomes, they're calculating compatibility scores, and they're looking for stability way before they ever consider a spontaneous spark.
This quote right here just nails it. They trust their brain so much more than their heart. A new relationship is treated almost like a business proposal, you know? They're weighing the pros and cons, the impact on their career, the logistical fit. So while their heart might be screaming yes, their brain is busy running a cost-benefit analysis that, more often than not, tells them to just walk away before anything really gets started.
Okay, so let's build on that, because it's not just how they think, it's also about what they value most in life. And that brings us to what we can call the priority ladder. And believe me, it reveals a whole lot about their choices. For so many of them, life is the series of goals that have to be checked off in a very specific order. And finding a partner? That's often step 3. It's something you think about only after the career's established and the finances are totally locked down. Love isn't a journey that happens alongside everything else. It's the final project you take on once all the other big objectives are met.
And what's the consequence of that blueprint? Well, it's a big one. Lost time. By the time they finally feel ready to put their focus on a relationship, years, maybe even a decade have just flown by. The opportunities, the people they might have met, that time itself, it might be gone. They've successfully climbed that ladder of ambition, only to look around and realize the landscape of love looks totally different than it did when they first started their climb.
And this brings us to our third big idea here. When they do finally decide to look for a partner, they aren't just looking for someone fun to hang out with. Oh no, they are searching for a very, very specific kind of connection. And they usually come armed with a pretty detailed mental checklist.
See, they're not just looking for a partner, they're looking for an equal. And this creates a kind of funnel effect. The dating pool might start out huge, but it gets filtered through these incredibly high standards. They need intellectual parity, a shared worldview, radical independence. It just dramatically narrows down the number of people who could possibly make the cut.
And you've got to understand, freedom is everything. They have spent years building a life of complete independence. So to them, the normal give and take of a relationship, the compromises we all make, can feel like suffocating restrictions. Being told, oh, you can't do that, or tonight we have to do this, can feel like a direct attack on their identity, and it makes them pull back.
And even when they get into a relationship, this can happen. This emotional disconnect is a huge complaint from their partners. Just imagine, you're out for this amazing romantic dinner, but the person sitting across from you is somewhere else. They're mentally running numbers for their next business deal. They're physically there, but they're not really there, you know? Their mind is always on the next goal, and that can leave their partner feeling completely undervalued, unheard, and honestly, pretty bored.
So, after looking at all this, it is so easy to see it as a failure to find love. But what if we're looking at it all wrong? What if we reframe this, not as a problem to be solved, but as a deliberate choice of where to put your focus?
Think about your life like a pie chart. For a lot of people, that relationships slice is the biggest piece of the whole pie. But for the individuals we're talking about, their pie just looks different. Career and self-growth simply take up way more space. It's not that love is unimportant. It's just a smaller piece of a life that's also dedicated to these other huge pursuits.
And really, that's what this all comes down to. There's no single right way to build a life. Some of us put relationships at the very center of our universe. Others put their ambitions there. This isn't really a story about failure, it's a story about different priorities and the very different lives they create.
Which leaves us with one final thought to chew on. Are highly intelligent people actually struggling to find love, or are they simply paying the price for consciously or maybe subconsciously choosing to prioritize something else? It's a question about the trade-offs that really all of us make in our search for a meaningful life. Thanks for digging into this with us.